Coming up on today's Animalia, herding the herd, South African style. The first killer whale born through artificial insemination is welcomed into the world. Russian pigs race for fame, glory, and a big bucket of carrots. Wild brown bears visit town for some takeout. And newborn baby dog sharks are crowd favourites in South Korea. A Bangkok man is reaping the rewards of training his four-legged friend in the art of begging. Nai Noonan found the dog 7 months ago in the Bangkok park he calls home. He took her in, gave her a name, and immediately fixed her up with a new career. Nai and his family are homeless. He ekes out a living from scraps. Today he's making grasshoppers with bamboo and paper. Tomorrow he might be selling lighters or shining shoes. He lives day by day, just like his dog, Men. After teaching her a few tricks and training her to sit still, Men was ready to hit the streets of downtown Bangkok. Every day the two of them comb the streets, stalk the curbs, hang out at train stations or lounge in pedestrian passes, anywhere with a steady flow of people. When they find a good spot, Nai sits Men down and carefully positions an empty cup by her paws. Once the cup is secured, he steps aside and simply watches Men's natural charm win over many of the daily commuters. Nai thinks the arrangement is quite fair. He's looked after Men ever since she was abandoned at the park, and in return, the dog helps to earn some money for her adopted family. And besides, the public don't seem to mind at all. The cup doesn't just sit between Men's paws, but on them, so she has to keep perfectly still while looking for the next passerby to charm. If you're a beggar, this isn't a bad way to boost your income. However, the authorities see it a little differently. Bangkok is trying to clamp down on the practice at the moment, and on this occasion, Men's charms weren't enough to prevent the inevitable. Dog and owner were both briefly detained for questioning. No arrest made, and the opportunists move on to a different spot. A total of 23 elephants have been rounded up so far and transferred to the Gaza Kruger Gonarajau Park, a new game reserve which straddles the borders of Zimbabwe, Mozambique and South Africa. The South African jumbos have become the first occupants of the new park, under a program to move 1,000 animals from the Kruger National Park. The exercise will ease pressure on Kruger, which is about the size of Israel and which scientists say has reached its capacity. Kruger is currently home to a huge variety of wildlife, including the Big Five group of mammals, elephants, rhinos, buffalo, lions and leopards. Before the relocation plan was drawn up, conservationists had considered culling to reduce the park's 9,000-plus elephant population, a move which would have been met with much protest from animal rights groups. Approximately 100 years ago, Kruger National Park had no elephants as the population had been hunted to extinction. History shows that 30 brave elephants walked across the Chigwedzi River from Mozambique to Kruger. They're the great-grandfathers and great-grandmothers of these elephants here today, which South Africa is now returning to Mozambique and thus repaying an old debt. Administrators from both countries have taken control of the operation and are running it without any government interference, while the budget of 50 million rand has been generously donated by a German bank. Most of Mozambique's elephant population was decimated during a brutal civil war that ended in 1992. The few that have remained quickly become acquainted with the new arrivals. About 75 trainee rangers have completed their studies at the Southern African Wildlife College. And about 300 Mozambican staffers will soon begin their courses in order to look after and help protect the herds as they arrive. These elephants will definitely be a tourist boon to one of the world's poorest countries. Amid the numerous threats already faced by the world's largest mammals, environmentalists say another looms large. It's believed by some that whales are falling victim to US government-approved technology, namely low-frequency active sonar. Environment groups are claiming that whale deaths and beachings such as these were the result of exposure to sonar, which was being used in the area at the time. Low-frequency active sonar sends extremely intense bursts of sound, between 150 and 180 decibels at low frequencies into the water via a cable attached to an underwater speaker. Experts say the decibel level is roughly equivalent to that found in the front row of a rock concert. The sound bursts are used to detect very quiet diesel, electric and nuclear submarines, which the Navy says are difficult to find using conventional passive sonar. They say that the sound diminishes quickly with distance and the effect on whales is only temporary. The problem, according to environmentalists, is that the Navy still hasn't determined the long-term effects on the whales. The echolocation and hearing anatomy of whales is very sensitive and more vulnerable to sound waves underwater than human hearing. Whales rely on their hearing and vocalizations for breeding, migrating and feeding, often communicating over great distances. According to a spokesman for the Natural Resources Defence Council, intense sound could potentially affect not just marine mammals but fish, fish eggs and the integrity of the oceans as a whole. In light of this criticism, the Navy is defending its technology by stating that sonar pings at 180 decibels are less intense than other sounds affecting sea life, including lightning, ships' propellers and continual pings from private vessels searching for oil deposits. Low-frequency active sonar is now in use in all the Earth's oceans, except the Arctic, Antarctic and environmentally sensitive coastal regions. In other news, an orca whale at San Diego's SeaWorld has given birth to the first killer whale ever conceived through artificial insemination. The successful pregnancy was the result of 12 years of research by Dr. Todd Roback, who closely monitored 25-year-old Kasatka as the delivery neared its 17-month term, the longest known of all cetaceans. As anxious SeaWorld staff looked on, Kasatka gave birth to the calf after 4 hours of labour at Shamu Stadium's main show pool. The healthy and heavy new bundle of joy weighs close to 350 pounds and measures 6.5 feet long. Moments after it had taken its first breath, Kasatka proudly showed off her new calf for all to see. With all the pomp and ceremony of a state visit, Moscow's first modern pig races were almost set to start. The event was held by Russian pig farmers who were trying to revive a little-known racing tradition that captured the imagination of Russian country fairgoers as well as the nobility a century ago. For the pigs, this is a chance to not only win a pail of carrots with whipped cream dressing, but also to escape the dreaded chop. The group of 15 three-month-old porkers went through a demanding process just to get this far. Veterinarians and trainers selected candidates from birth. The pigs had to be strong, fast, unafraid of loud crowds, and willing to follow commands, although that's a bit hard to tell at the moment. Head veterinarian Sergei Spirin said that all the pigs had learned to overcome their initial fears and sharpen their passion for racing, but even the most competitive pigs still had to be lured to the finish with water and carrots. After all, they're still little piglets with big appetites. The good news for the pigs is that they're all completely safe. Win, lose or draw come the final. The farm that raised the sporty trotters has just sold them to a company that wants to breed future racing champions. And for the record, Apollo won the big race by a snout, assuring himself and his trainer, Vladimir Prusakov, their proud places in the annals of Russian pig history. The question is, will the mighty Apollo go on to sire a great racing dynasty? If pig racing isn't your sport of choice, how about something a bit more jumpy? Every year, Australia's Noonamar pub in the remote Northern Territory hosts the Noonamar Tavern Cup, a green tree frog racing competition. The frogs are auctioned off to the pub patrons for charity, and the bidding is fast and furious. Sponsors pay up to $100 each for the right to name a frog after their company. And with a shake of the old green bucket, they are often jumping, or just sitting on the spot, wondering what all the fuss is about. Pretty soon, the crowd's at fever pitch, urging their frogs over the line, while the trainers employ their own persuasive method. A gentle squirt of water gets their lethargic hoppers into the mood for racing. Then finally, after several uneventful minutes tick by, success, and a well-deserved rest for the winner. And speaking of frogs, check out this unusual character. According to the experts, it's actually one frog with 3 heads and 6 legs. This amphibious anomaly was found at a children's day nursery in the English village of Weston-super-Mare in Somerset. Wildlife experts are still stunned by the extremely rare discovery. The World Wildlife Fund released a report warning that Indonesia is set to lose its last remaining tiger species, the Sumatran tiger, if the widespread illegal trade in tiger parts isn't stopped. The report revealed that at least 50 Sumatran tigers have been poached per year since 1998, and only 400 are left in Sumatra. The systematic hunting of this critically endangered species is driving a substantial domestic Indonesian market for tiger skins and other parts, such as bone used in traditional Asian medicine and for trophies, charms and souvenirs. Tiger parts are readily available from dealers, with many of these openly displayed for sale. Loss of forest habitat is also a major threat to the Sumatran tiger. The World Bank estimates that all of Sumatra's lowland rainforests outside protected areas will be lost within the next 2 years. Despite this, some of the world's biggest paper companies are continuing to clear thousands of hectares of forest a month. With only a few hundred Sumatran tigers remaining, the Wildlife Fund fears they'll suffer the same fate as 2 other tiger subspecies, the Balinese and Javan tigers, which became extinct in the 1930s and 1980s respectively. Undercover investigators found tiger products in 17 out of 24 towns surveyed, and 453 shops sold tiger products, primarily teeth and claws. If action is taken now, the world's last island population of tigers can be saved. After all, the tiger is a symbol of conservation in Indonesia and internationally as well. An underwater plague is attacking one of the natural wonders of the world. Australia's Great Barrier Reef is seriously under threat, and the damage being caused is far more severe than previously thought. The culprit, the crown-of-thorns starfish. A single starfish can consume up to 6 square meters of reef in a year, and 15 million crown-of-thorns have already been destroyed in eradication programs over the past 15 years. Now the threat is rapidly spreading to previously unaffected parts of the reef. According to the organisation representing marine park tourism operators in the area, the numbers of crown-of-thorn starfish are at the highest they've seen for some time. Not only are they threatening some critically important types of coral in the Whitsundays, a major tourism area in the region, but some newly affected areas as well, which could be destroyed in under a year if action isn't taken right away. The government needs to concede that the crown-of-thorns plague is getting worse and earmark at least $4 million to control the problem in the affected areas. or risk losing this natural wonder forever. 2 baby camels at a Berlin zoo are meeting visitors for the first time. Born 1 week apart from each other, Rudy and his younger half-brother Rebel are now the zoo's main attractions. Asian camels are also known as Bactrian and have 2 humps. They differ from Arabian camels, the single-hump dromedaries, in several ways. Bactrians are shorter and stockier and can endure a wider range of temperatures than their Arabian cousins. These Bactrians also have longer, finer wool than dromedaries. The foals are still a little unsteady on their long legs, and their semi-developed humps look rather like droopy skin flaps on their sides. Baby camels are born without humps. Camels store fat in their humps, and the layer of fat doesn't develop until they drink enough mother's milk and begin to eat solid food, so the hump of a camel colt is completely empty at first. According to zookeeper Nora Kuntzak, both Rudy and Rebel should begin to develop their humps in around 6 weeks' time. A newborn calf weighs 30 to 40 kilograms and can reach a weight of 600 kilograms in just 6 or 7 years. Calves remain close to their mother until they're around 5 years old. Rudy and Rebel's father Roy isn't part of the herd yet, since male camels tend to be a bit boisterous with their offspring. The zoo plans to have him join them when the calves are slightly older. Camels are so adapted to harsh desert life that they can go for up to 10 days without drinking by living off the fat stored in their humps. They're also the only mammals with oval rather than circular red blood cells. This adaptation allows the blood cells to expand and not rupture when the camel drinks large quantities of water. Other adaptations include a double row of long curly eyelashes to keep sand out of their eyes, and a third eyelid that acts as a windshield wiper, moving from side to side. They can even close their nostrils to keep sand out. The camel is one of the world's oldest domesticated animals and has been helping us to survive in deserts for more than 10,000 years. They've carried nomads, soldiers and explorers from place to place, provided milk to drink, wool for clothing, and even dung to make fires when firewood has been scarce. City rubbish bins aren't a typical tourist attraction, but visitors to the Romanian town of Brasov have been paying nightly visits to the dumpsters to watch the wilderness come to suburbia. Families of brown bears living in the surrounding hills have begun eating dinner out of the bins, which provide easy pickings for the hungry beasts. Today, Romania's forests support the largest concentration of wild carnivores in Europe, with an estimated 5,000 brown bears as well as wolves, lynx and wild boar. It's not the first time the bears have descended on Brasov, a district of about 400,000 people. Up until 1999, they were a common sight at night, but then the local authorities introduced bins with lids, and the bears disappeared. Since then, though, residents have been leaving the bins uncovered and the bears have come back. There are fears, however, that the protective mother bears could turn on local residents. If any of the bears who wandered down the hill were to feel that their cubs were under threat, they would certainly attack. In 1999, 2 local residents lived to tell of their close encounter with an angry brown bear. They thought it would be fun to get a closer look at the town's nocturnal raiders and were fortunate to get away with only minor injuries. Unfortunately, their experience hasn't taught other foolhardy folk to keep a safe distance from what is essentially a wild, ferocious, hungry animal. The reason for the absence of males is that the authorities encourage hunting, which targets large male bears. Ironically, to kill a bear in Romania would have meant certain imprisonment during the former communist regime. Bears were protected regardless of the damage the animals may have been causing. That is, unless the hunter was a top Communist Party official or dictator Nicolae Ceausescu himself. The hunting ban imposed by the communists left Romania with Europe's largest brown bear population outside Russia. And it also explains why so many are now forced to raid the town bins and rubbish dumps for scraps. There once was a time when these buffalo would have been valuable assets to any farm across Thailand. But now, with widespread use of tractors and other machinery, Thailand's working water buffaloes have been made redundant. But in northern Thailand's Chiang Mai province, there's a small place called Ban Kwai Thai Buffalo Camp, a sanctuary for 18 lucky animals. All of the buffaloes here were brought from the local abattoir just in the nick of time. They get to live here comfortably, with many people to care for them and plenty of good food to eat. The camp was set up a year ago to show visitors just what the buffalo could do, and also to try and preserve traditional Thai farming techniques. Each day, dozens of tourists are given the chance not only to learn about Thai farming, but also take part. Tourists are shown how to plough fields and plant rice. They're also allowed to ride the beasts around the lush green rice paddies, a special experience according to those who take part. While most visitors think it's a shame that these hard-working animals have been let out to pasture, most understand that it makes sense for countries like Thailand to move with the times, especially with 60 million people to feed. The managers of the buffalo camps say that many children growing up in Thailand today have no idea about how important buffalo have been to the country's farming history and how much needs to be done to save them. Even the children who grow up on the farms today are eager to forget the old ways and move to the city of Bangkok, where they can make far more money than they could ever do farming. Ban Kwai Farm is a private, self-sufficient project which is helped by donations from visiting tourists. The camp hopes to encourage others in Thailand to set up buffalo camps to ensure the survival of these gentle beasts. In 1981, there were 6.1 million buffalo in Thai fields. By last year, the number had dropped to just 1.2 million throughout the entire country. While thousands were sent to slaughterhouses, most were turned loose to fend for themselves, which has only managed to cause more damage to the environment and the economy. Children are pouring into Seoul's City SeaWorld aquarium to see the baby sharks, born in captivity but by natural means. The 8 20-centimetre long baby sharks have been put in a small perspex box inside the aquarium to protect them from being attacked by the more aggressive, larger sharks circling around the box. Born only a month ago, they'll grow to around a metre within the next 2 years. Most fish lay eggs. However, dog sharks are viviparous, which means they give birth to live young. It's the first time South Korea has had baby sharks born by natural mating in an aquarium, and the public has become quite attached to them. Only 3 of the baby sharks are on display at a time. The other 5 are resting in the back room of the aquarium. Caring for these precious young and ensuring their health is a top priority for the City SeaWorld staff, even with over 20,000 other sea creatures to take care of, including 25 adult sharks of 6 different species.
Metazoa